Welcome to Cardano for Everyone, a podcast series from Pasta Steak Pool. Each episode explores something new about Cardano in a way that's simple and accessible for everyone. In the mood for some Cardano magic? Let's get started.
All right, let's unpack this. We're going deep on the Byron phase of Cardano, the very beginning of this blockchain platform's journey.
It's kind of like an origin story. It's a fascinating place to start. I mean, think about it. Back then, Bitcoin was already making waves, but it had its limitations. Scalability was a big one. There were concerns about energy consumption and, honestly, not much room to grow beyond just being a digital currency.
And that's where Charles Hoskinson, Cardano's founder, enters the picture.
Hoskinson, a co-founder of Ethereum, he saw a need, for a blockchain that could scale to handle a global user base, operate sustainably without, using all the planet's energy, and be flexible enough to integrate with other systems. That was the whole idea behind Cardano.
Okay, so Byron, named after the poet Lord Byron, this is like the foundation for this grand vision.
And one of the most important parts of that foundation was their Ouroboros consensus protocol. So you might have heard of proof of work before.
Yeah, like with Bitcoin. That uses a lot of energy, right?
A lot, yeah. It's like a giant computational race.
Okay, so Cardano took a different path.
They did, with Ouroboros.
And it's a proof-of-stake system.
Way more energy efficient.
So instead of miners competing, it's more like participants who are chosen to validate those transactions based on the amount of ADA they hold, Cardano's cryptocurrency.
Yeah, and much, much kinder to the environment. It's a key part of Cardano's commitment to sustainability. Plus, it just makes the network more secure because attacking it becomes way more expensive.
How so?
You'd need to control a massive amount of ADA just to even try.
Interesting. So we've got this secure and eco-friendly network powered by Ouroboros. But what about the cryptocurrency itself? ADA. Where does that fit into all of this?
Well, ADA, which is named after Ada Lovelace.
Oh, wow.
ADA is also really important for Cardano's future governance system. It will give holders a say in how the platform evolves. Think of it as a built-in voting mechanism, allowing the community to shape the direction of Cardano.
Oh, so they were already thinking about this decentralized system where the community has real power, even back then in the Byron phase.
Oh, yeah. And to make ADA easy to use and accessible, they launched two wallets, Daedalus and Yoroi.
Okay.
Daedalus is like the Fort Knox of ADA wallet. It's super secure and offers total control of your funds, but you have to download the entire blockchain.
So that's for the hardcore enthusiasts.
It is.
Who are prioritizing security over convenience.
And then you have Yoroi. It's a lighter, more agile wallet, perfect for quick transactions and everyday use.
So that's more for kind of everyday transactions.
It is. It's like your go-to digital wallet for using ADA.
Okay, that makes sense. Offering different options to suit different needs. But, building a successful blockchain platform isn't just about the technology, right? It's about the people, the community.
Right from the beginning, Cardano recognized that. They put a lot of focus on building a strong and engaged community. They hosted educational events, they created online forums, and they really fostered this collaborative spirit. They understood that the strength of a decentralized platform comes from its people.
Yeah, it's like planting the seeds for a vibrant ecosystem. So they were not just laying the groundwork for the technology, but also for the community that would use it.
And that focus on community extended to their approach to regulation as well. Back then, a lot of crypto projects were operating in a bit of a Wild West environment, but Cardano was different. They took a proactive approach. They designed Cardano to be compliant with global regulatory standards.
Interesting.
They prioritized transparency and accountability. They really wanted to avoid any potential problems down the line.
Make it easier for mainstream adoption.
It was a smart move, especially considering how much the regulatory landscape was, and still is, changing.
So Byron was about, like we said, laying the foundation. We had the secure and scalable network, the introduction of ADA and all its different roles,
Yes.
user-friendly wallets, creating that strong community, and ensuring regulatory compliance. That's a lot to pack into just the initial phase.
It is. It really reflects a long-term vision. They weren't just rushing to get a product out there. They were building a foundation for a truly groundbreaking platform. And that meant getting the fundamentals right from the beginning.
And it's giving me a much deeper understanding of Cardano's origins. But I'm curious, We know Bitcoin aimed to be a decentralized digital currency. What was Cardano's grand vision? Was it simply to be a better Bitcoin?
It gets to the heart of blockchain's evolution. You see, Bitcoin was a first-generation blockchain, and it focused primarily on that peer-to-peer digital cash idea. But by the time Cardano came along, things were changing. Second-generation blockchains like Ethereum, they had emerged and introduced smart contracts.
Those self-executing agreements written in code. So instead of just being digital money, blockchain could become a platform for all sorts of applications.
And that's where Cardano's vision really starts to come into focus. They weren't trying to just improve on Bitcoin. They were aiming to be a platform that could rival Ethereum.
So they were aiming to be like a third-generation blockchain platform. But how were they planning to differentiate themselves from Ethereum? Because Ethereum was already gaining traction.
And the answer lies in Cardano's unique approach to development. They emphasized scientific rigor and academic research, bringing a level of scrutiny and validation that was pretty rare in the blockchain space at that time. Remember Ouroboros?
Yeah.
Their consensus protocol? It was the first to be peer-reviewed and mathematically proven secure.
So they were bringing this more like academic, research-oriented approach to the world of blockchain.
And that went for their entire development process. They used formal verification methods to ensure their code was reliable and secure.
Okay.
It was a methodical approach, almost like building a scientific experiment rather than just software.
So it was a different philosophy than, say, Ethereum, which was known for move fast and break things.
Exactly.
Mm.
Cardano prioritized security and reliability above all else.
It's interesting, the contrast. But let's bring it back to the Byron phase for a second. We've talked about the overall goals, the technology, the community, the focus on regulations. But was there anything specific that happened during this phase that stands out to you?
One thing that comes to mind is how they handled the initial distribution of ADA.
Okay.
You know, unlike a lot of other projects back then that were doing these ICOs, these initial coin offerings.
Which could be chaotic.
And they often led to a few whales controlling a huge amount of the supply. Cardano was different. They took a much more structured approach, did a series of public and private sales, all carefully designed to make sure there was a wider distribution of ADA, and create a more decentralized ecosystem right from the start.
So they were putting safeguards in place from the start.
Yeah.
To prevent, like you said, a few powerful players from manipulating the market.
That commitment to decentralization was, and still is, a core part of their philosophy. They believe that a truly decentralized system will be more resilient, fair, and successful in the long run.
I see how all the pieces fit together. The Byron phase wasn't just about laying the technical foundation. It was also about establishing a certain type of ecosystem, decentralized, community-driven, and built on this solid foundation of research and security.
And that's what makes the Byron phase so crucial to understanding Cardano's journey. It's not just about the code, it's about the vision, the philosophy, the groundwork for everything that came after.
Yeah.
You can really see how much thought and research went into the design, even back then in the Byron phase.
Can you give us an example of some of those key concepts they were working with back then?
Well, one that pops up a lot is epochs.
Epochs.
Think of it as a period of time on the Cardano blockchain.
Okay.
And within each epoch, various events happen, like the selection of slot leaders.
Slot leaders, I've heard that term thrown around a lot.
These are the nodes that are responsible for adding new blocks to the chain.
Ah, got it.
Basically, like, they're chosen to create these blocks based on how much ADA they have staked, meaning how much they've pledged as a sort of a security deposit.
So epochs are like chapters in the Cardano blockchain. And slot leaders, those are the authors of each chapter. And they're picked based on how much ADA they've staked. Sounds like staking is a pretty big deal in Cardano.
Staking is at the heart of Cardano's Ouroboros protocol. Consensus mechanism, their innovative way of doing things. It ensures that everyone agrees on the state of the blockchain, you know, without relying on that energy-intensive mining that Bitcoin uses.
So they had the technology, the protocol, the wallets. It's like they were building a solid foundation for Cardano to grow. The Cardano team had a vision that went way beyond just launching a new cryptocurrency. They were laying the groundwork for this robust, secure, and regulatory compliant blockchain ecosystem. But Byron, it was just the first step on this multi-phase roadmap. They must have run into their fair share of challenges along the way.
Of course, building a new blockchain platform from scratch, it's never easy. They had to overcome a lot of technical hurdles. For example, this excerpt from 2.pdf, it gives us a glimpse into the challenges they faced with scaling the network and developing strong smart contract capability.
Smart contracts, that's a whole other layer of complexity, right? They were already thinking about that back in the Byron phase.
They knew that smart contracts would be essential for unlocking Cardano's true potential as a programmable platform. But developing a secure and efficient system for handling those smart contracts, it's no easy feat.
So Byron wasn't just about getting that core system up and running. It was also about anticipating future needs and setting the stage for some serious scaling and added functionality down the line. They were already playing around with some pretty advanced concepts to reach those goals. Like, what were those dynamic stake mechanisms they were working on?
Well, remember how we talked about staking influencing slot leader selection? Dynamic stake mechanisms were about making that whole process more adaptable. So instead of being a static system, it becomes more responsive to changes in stake distribution.
So it's like the more ADA you stake, the more influence you have on the network.
And they were also introducing this thing called a randomness beacon.
A randomness beacon.
Yeah, it ensures that the selection of slot leaders is totally random, unpredictable. It's crucial for maintaining network security.
Right, so no one can game the system.
Exactly, preventing any single party from having too much control.
Like a digital lottery to keep things fair.
Exactly. They talk about their implementation of publicly verifiable secret sharing, or PVSS.
PVSS.
It's a very clever technique. Imagine you have a secret code and you split it into pieces, giving each piece to a different person. So no single person can unlock the code alone.
Like a treasure map, where you need all the pieces to find the treasure.
And in Cardano, they use this technique to make sure the generation of randomness in the network is secure and transparent.
Wow. It's amazing how much thought and effort went into securing the network right from the beginning.
It's a testament to their commitment to building a platform that people can trust. They wanted to make sure that security was baked into every single aspect of the system.
Okay, so we've talked about launching ADA, the Ouroboros protocol, the wallets, their emphasis on regulation, and all those security measures. Byron laid the groundwork for everything Cardano is today.
It was about setting up a framework for this robust and evolving blockchain ecosystem. The Byron phase had a strong emphasis on regulatory compliance. Cardano's team wanted to build a system that could play by the rules and integrate with existing financial systems.
So they were playing the long game, building trust from the ground up.
It was about establishing a secure, compliant platform that could support Cardano's ambitious vision for the future.
Speaking of the future, what did that roadmap look like back then? What was the vision beyond Byron?
Byron was just the first chapter. The roadmap included exciting developments like smart contracts, solutions for scaling the network, and expanding the use cases for ADA beyond just a cryptocurrency.
Well, they were thinking big. We've covered a lot of ground, the goals, the tech, even the wallets. But I'm curious, for our listeners out there who are just getting into the crypto world, why should they care about this history? What's the takeaway?
Understanding Cardano's origins is like getting a peek behind the curtain.
Okay.
You see how a project focused on security, sustainability, and compliance took its first steps. It gives you valuable context for understanding where Cardano is today and where it might be headed.
It's the foundation for everything that followed.
Exactly.
That's a great point.
It's interesting to think about how they approached those goals because it was all very methodical. So kind of like constructing a skyscraper.
You got to have that foundation.
You got to have that foundation. And for Cardano, that foundation was all about getting those core elements, right? The Ouroboros protocol, the ADA cryptocurrency itself, and those wallets that we talked about, Daedalus and Yoroi.
Okay, we know that Cardano places a huge emphasis on peer-reviewed research. And that's something you don't always see in the crypto world. How did that commitment to scientific rigor play out during the Byron phase?
It was evident from the very beginning. Ouroboros, for example, was the result of years of research by leading academics. They didn't just rush it out the door. They rigorously tested it, published papers, and went through peer review to ensure its quality and security.
So A very different approach from the move fast and break things mentality that we sometimes see in the tech world.
It was all about laying a solid, scientifically grounded foundation.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure they were building something that could stand the test of time and scrutiny. And that long-term vision really set Cardano apart. They understood that trust and credibility are built on a foundation of solid research and development, not just hype and speculation.
It's amazing to see how much thought and care went into the Byron phase. It really was about laying that groundwork for everything that came after.
The Byron phase was a testament to their commitment to doing things the right way, even if it meant taking a bit longer. And that set the stage for Cardano's remarkable journey of innovation.
Which brings us to the next chapter in this story, the phase that came after Byron. What was it called?
It was called Shelley.
Shelley.
And it marked a major step towards Cardano's goal of becoming a truly decentralized network.
We hear that word a lot in the crypto world, decentralization. Can you explain what it means in the context of Cardano and why it's so important?
In essence, decentralization means that no single entity has control over the network.
Okay.
Power is distributed among a wide range of participants.
So it's the opposite of a traditional centralized system.
And Shelley was all about shifting Cardano's governance and operation away from that centralized model
Okay.
and towards a more community-driven approach.
That sounds like a pretty ambitious undertaking.
They've been incredibly methodical and deliberate in their approach, always focusing on building a solid foundation for future growth. They haven't been afraid to take their time and do things the right way.
No rushing, no cutting corners.
They're constantly innovating and pushing the boundaries. They're working on solutions for scaling the network to handle even more transactions,
Okay.
improving interoperability with other blockchains,
Wow.
and even exploring ways to bring internet connectivity to developing countries.
Really. It's amazing to see how far they've come. It's an inspiring story, really. So for our listeners out there who are intrigued by Cardano or maybe just starting to explore the world of blockchain, what advice would you give them? What's the best way to approach this space?
I'd say the most important thing is to be curious. Take the time to understand the technology, the different projects, the potential risks.
Yeah.
But it's also incredibly rewarding to explore and learn about.
It's a reminder that this technology is still in its early stages and there's so much more to come. Well, I think we've given our listeners a fantastic overview of Cardano's journey from those early Byron days to the exciting developments that are shaping its future. It's been a fascinating deep dive.
We've covered a lot of ground, but as we said, this is really just the tip of the iceberg. The world of blockchain is vast and ever-changing, and we encourage everyone to keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, stay curious.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Cardano's remarkable story. Until next time.
Thank you for being part of Cardano for Everyone. We hope you gained something valuable from today's episode. If you'd like to support our mission of making Cardano knowledge accessible for all, consider selecting Pasta from the pool list when you delegate. Every bit of support helps us bring more content to listeners like you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll see you on the next episode.